What's up, my friends? It is Danny Gallows, of course, who'd you think it was, and welcome back to another review thing. So guys, this past weekend I finally got around to finishing Stranger Things Season 4, and man, what a time for 80s resurgence, huh? I mean, Maverick last weekend, now I'm deeply steeped in Stranger Things Season 4, and the awesomeness continues. Now, like most of you out there, I'm sure, I have been extremely excited for Season 4 ever since the last episode of Season 3 ended. And, you know, man, Stranger Things does such a good job with their cliffhangers. They leave you in a certain state, with certain emotions, at the end of every single season, and it causes this deep desire within you to see more. It's almost like we've become friends with all the characters on the show, and we love to see this story progress. So finally, Season 4 is here now, and we're getting to see this story progress. We're getting to follow these characters again, and we're becoming more committed and more connected to each person in the show. And I'm very happy to say that once again we have another pretty awesome season of Stranger Things on our hands. And you notice I said pretty awesome there because yeah, the show definitely has a few problems and we'll get into that a little bit later. But you know, Stranger Things is one of those shows that has remained consistently great. And it's one of those shows where the good always far outweighs the bad. And I would have to say that the main source of this awesomeness comes from the cast, of course. You know, every single year, every single person involved in this show, every single cast member gets better and better and better. And it's because, you know, with each year, they grow, and now they've really grown into their roles. You know, they're older, they're wiser, they're more mature of themselves, the decisions they make, the things that they're thinking about are starting to become more relevant in their lives, and all these characters, and all the actors and actresses playing the characters are starting to become very, very comfortable in their roles as they become more aware of themselves, and they really get into the groove of being these characters, and man, it just makes the show so incredibly realistic. I would say that the standouts for me personally this year, definitely Millie Bobby Brown. I mean, Millie Bobby Brown goes without saying at this point. She's been absolutely phenomenal since the very first episode. And once again, in this season, she gives a stellar performance all the way through. We get to dig into her past a little bit. She goes into a deep character exploration, and it's absolutely great. I mean, she is so fantastic. She's so fantastic. And also, David Harbour, of course, as Hopper, has a much more relevant role in this season as well. There's lots of quiet character moments with him, which give him a lot more character development, much more than Season 3, a lot of good action sequences, and just so much more going on around his character, involving his character that really have an impact on the show, and I really thought it was great. And a huge pleasant surprise for me this year for Season 4 was Sadie Sink as Max. She was incredible. She gave a performance that was so on point during this season, and it's, you know, kind of unlike anything we've ever seen before, because Max, for the most part, has been a fairly, you know, uneventful character, but this season, she's in a lot more scenes, and again, just like Hopper, there's a lot of character development. There's a lot more character development around her character, and it's really bringing out her acting abilities. I mean, again, this isn't a spoiler review, so I don't want to get too much into it, but there's a scene in the show where she's reading a letter at Billy's grave, and I've never seen her act like that before. I've never seen that kind of performance from her before. There is so much going on in that performance. So many different emotions. And for an actress, especially that young, to be able to convey all of those different emotions and all of that entire spectrum of just melancholy and anger and fear and you know, just absolutely crushing kind of soulless emotions that come out of you in these very crippling you know, situations that you have to go through in life. She did such an amazing job conveying that, and it made me so excited to see what's next for this character. Another aspect of the show that was absolutely masterfully done this year, and this is another constant with the show, is that the production value is very, very high. The production value keeps getting higher with every single season. I mean, really every single episode, and by the way, we have longer run times on each episode now, so it adds to this notion. Every single episode feels like a Hollywood movie, like an A-plus grade Hollywood movie. The direction, the cinematography, the overall production, the high production quality of the show, it just keeps getting better and better and better. So you feel like you're watching like one long 6 or 7 hour movie. And it's so great. And what it does is it really helps to bring out the super dark quality of the show, because this season is very dark. I mean, it gets really dark and bloody and violent and gruesome, and it's awesome. And seeing that done at such a high production level, man, it makes the show all the more greater. Oh, and by the way, the action sequences in this season, wow. I mean, and action really isn't what we talk about most of the time with Stranger Things, because it's a much more grounded kind of sci-fi show. But man, you know, again, this isn't a spoiler review, so I won't give too much away, but there is a scene in this season of a gunfight in a house, and it reminded me of like a first-person shooter game, or like a Jason Bourne movie or something like that. And normally I'd hate that added to a show like Stranger Things, but man, did it work so well. And that's another great aspect about this show, is that there are scenes like that, like these really kind of epic, visceral action sequences that are sprinkled all throughout the show, that almost give this season a way more different feel than previous seasons, and it only adds to it. This is one of those circumstances where adding new elements into the show like that doesn't necessarily really take anything away, but almost progresses the show, evolves the show into something else. Again, these characters are growing up. People are getting older, right? More serious and dire situations are starting to take hold of their lives, and this is the result of that. Now things are starting to go down. Now things are starting to get real, right? And we really see that aspect of the show is really brought out with these action sequences, and it was great. It was so well done. But, you know, with all that said though, there is one thing about the show that I didn't really care for, and a lot of problems tend to stem from that one part of the show, is that once again, the group is fractured apart. You know, the cast is kind of split up into different groups again. And this has always bothered me about Stranger Things. You know, something always happens. Something always happens every season where the cast is in different places, and we never see them as a group. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I've always wanted to see, and that's what I thought that Stranger Things Season 4 was going to be. Because I want to see the group together, solving mysteries together as a group. I don't like these people being in separate locations doing separate things, because what happens is that, you know, you go to this story and then you go to that story and then you continue on with, you know, story C for a while, right? And then that goes too long, so you forget about story B and you really forget about story A, because they keep shifting the focus to these different groups rather than just having the entire cast together doing something together. So I'd be interested to see how Season 5 is going to be, if they are going to do that, because I really want to see the group together doing things. I want to see some real camaraderie start to grow between the group, because that's been sorely missing from these seasons. And of course, then there's even more problems that begin to arise from that, because what happens in that kind of a situation is that you start to open up a lot of subplots and possible storylines that don't end up going anywhere, and you feel like you're wasting time. You feel like you're watching an episode wasting a lot of time, when they could have just instead focused on more solid storytelling that actually progressed the story and actually had more of an impact on the story. So again, this is kind of a minor problem, but it can become a major problem when it starts to affect the story. When you start to kind of like introduce storylines that don't go anywhere, right? And all these subplots start popping up, and you're like, well, what was the purpose of that? What was the purpose of this? What was the purpose of that character? Where were we going when we started going down this road, but then the road never led anywhere, you know? And again, they could have just focused on more storytelling that really added to the actual skeleton of the story itself. It's a minor complaint, but, you know, it's still kind of that still kind of, wore me down a little bit. But nevertheless, here we are once again with another pretty awesome season of Stranger Things. And Stranger Things really is a testament, not just to TV shows, but to movies as well. For a show, for a property, to remain consistently this good is definitely a rarity, and Stranger Things is definitely one of those shows that has remained truly great through all of its seasons, and I'm really, really excited to see more, man. So, what am I going to give Stranger Things Season 4 as an overall score? Well, we're going to go with a brown belt. Yeah, guys, I couldn't quite get it to a black belt because of all those problems that I mentioned. I'm a writer myself, so I'm always looking at that stuff. I'm always hyper-concentrated on the story and stuff like that, and it does take elements away from your enjoyment watching the show. So had to drop it down to a brown belt, but a brown belt is nothing to cry about, guys. A brown belt is still high. It's still a very, very high because let's face it, it could have been a lot worse. This could have been a total cash grab for Stranger Things. They could have put absolutely no effort into this show because they know that the name itself is going to get people into the seats, right? So this could have been a total cash grab for them. It wasn't. It was another solid season where they put a lot of work into the show. So solid brown belt for me, no doubt. Alright guys, well that's enough blathering from yours truly for right now. So now comes the best part of the video where I turn it over to all of you. Have you guys had a chance to finish up Stranger Things Season 4 yet? If so, leave all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the Great White Void, and I'll see you guys back here for the next video very, very soon. Now it's time for me to go to the Upside Down.